Rahul Gandhi was asked if he'll apologize for his Modi surname remark. Rahul Gandhi said, "My name is not Savarkar. It is Gandhi. And RSS never offers an apology." Now here, there is a correction that Vinayak Damodar Savarkar was not affiliated with the RSS. But yes, he is considered a Hindutva icon, and that's where Vinayak Damodar Savarkar is associated with the Hindu Mahasabha, never with the RSS. Karnataka Chief Minister Siddaramaiah said RSS founder Keshav Baliram Hedgewar had no role in the Quit India movement and had joined with the British. Reacting on the Culture Ministry tweet praising Golwalkar, Shashi Tharoor had said that the government of India is hailing a man who disrespected the India flag and constitution. Amid uproar in the Rajya Sabha over the president's remark equating Gandhi with Deen Dayal Upadhyay ji in 2017, senior Congress leader Anand Sharma said Gandhi ji has done a lot for the nation and his equation with Deen Dayal Upadhyay was a big disrespect. So whatever are the leaders hailed by the Congress party and rejected by the Congress party should stay rejected. The BJP on the other hand says that these are also leaders who contributed to the freedom movement. Don't disrespect them or erase them from history just because it's inconvenient to your version of the history. We will have, hopefully in a short while from now, Professor Gurumurthy ji taking the right stand to provide the right perspective on this entire debate. But first up, the whole story.
BJP are so corrupt in their mind, which they wanted to infuse in the system of studies.
ಅಡುಗೆವಾರು ಸ್ವತಂತ್ರ ಹೋರಾಟಗಾರರು ಅಂತೇಳಿ ಎಲ್ಲಾದರೂ ಸಾಬೀತು ಮಾಡಲಿ. ಈ ದೇಶದಲ್ಲಿ ಬ್ರಿಟಿಷರ ಕ್ಷಮಾಪಣೆ ಕೋರಿದಂಥ ಈ ನಕಲಿ ಸ್ವತಂತ್ರ ಹೋರಾಟಗಾರರಿಗೆ ಅವರು ಮಾನ್ಯತೆ ನೀಡಂಗಿದ್ರೆ ಇವತ್ತು ಯಾರೋ ಹೇಳಿಕೆ ಕೊಟ್ಟಿದ್ದಾರೆ.
ಡಿಸೆಂಬರ್ ನಂತರ ಮಂಜೂರಾಗಿರುವ ಜಮೀನುಗಳ ಬಗ್ಗೆ ವೆರಿಫಿಕೇಶನ್ ಮಾಡಲಿಕ್ಕೆ ಸಿಎಂ ಅವರು ಸೂಚನೆ ಕೊಟ್ಟಿದ್ದಾರೆ.
आरएसएस देशवासियों को दिल में है, हृदय में है, वो हटा नहीं सकता. सत्ता में है, उसके वजह से सिलेबस से हटा सकता है, बट दिल से हटा नहीं सकता.
Editor Tuklak, Professor S. Gurumurthy ji joins us at this point. Gurumurthy sir, namaskaram. Thank you very much. And you are somewhere deep in the hills, I'm given to understand, in Arunachal Pradesh, and on short notice you have agreed to speak with us. Thank you very, very much. My first question to you, the Congress party very critical of KB Hedgewar ji, the RSS founder.
Congress suffers from a series of, illiteracy, because it doesn't have institutional memory. So it suffers from historical illiteracy. Hedgewar was one of the most fierce freedom fighters. He was a revolutionary, and he joined the Anushilana Samiti. It was a revolutionary organization in the early part of the last century. And he was not just a member, he was one of the top leaders. In fact, his name appears in the book written by Triloknath Chakravarti, 30 years in jail is the title of the book, in which Hedgewar's picture also appeared as one of the persons who was a top leader of Anushilana Samiti. Because the top leader means a person who takes the vow not to get married or have family attachments and have only the commitment to the country as the only goal of life. This vow is necessary, and Dr. Hedgewar took that vow, and for 5 years he went there to study medicine, but he only underwent this revolutionary practice. So in 1910 he went to Calcutta when he was just 21, and he came back and started a revolutionary organization to overthrow the government by force, in association with one of his boyhood friends, Karve. Then he was slowly drawn into the Congress movement. From revolutionary movement he moves into the Congress. And in fact, after he moved very closely with Dr. Munjay, who was the Hindu Mahasabha leader,
Dr. Saab.
and so with Bal Gangadhar Tilak. In fact, after Tilak passed away, Hedgewar and Munjay went to Chennai and to Pondicherry to persuade Aurobindo to take over the leadership of the Congress party. This is also recorded. So he was not one of those persons who was not associated with the freedom movement. He was associated as a revolutionary, and then he came to the Congress. In 1921, he delivered a speech for which he was arrested for sedition. And in fact, the statement he made in the court and outside made the judge to say that his response is more seditious than the original speech he made, and he jailed him for 1 whole year. And he was released in July 1922. He was arrested in June 1921, and he was released in July 1922. And that very evening there was a reception given to him, which was presided over by none other than Motilal Nehru, who was at that time one of the top leaders of the Congress.
Party.
So those people who do not know anything about history, I mean, they can remove Hedgewar's name because many freedom fighters' names have been removed. If they can remove Savarkar's name, they can remove Hedgewar's name because they will recognize only those whom they like as freedom fighters. So then Hedgewar doesn't stop with that. When Mahatma Gandhi launched the Salt Satyagraha, and before that he declared 26th January as the day on which he declared India would fight for freedom. Hedgewar announced that on that day the RSS Shaka will assemble at 6 o'clock and the national flag will be hoisted, not the RSS flag. That's the most Congress flag. It hoisted the Congress flag for the first time.
So the Congress flag was hoisted in an RSS Shaka.
He went to he participated in what was known as the Jungle Satyagraha because he wanted to go and participate in the Salt Satyagraha, but people said no, you lead the Satyagraha here. And the Jungle Satyagraha was to break the rules of the British that you should not enter the jungle, keeping the jungle people away from the people of the plains. This is one of the ways by which the British people ensured that the tribal people did not develop. There was a development gap between the tribal people and the plain people in India. Not because the tribal people and the plain people were separate, but they were separated. So Hedgewar wanted to break that and wanted to enter the jungle. This was called Jungle Satyagraha. He was arrested again in August 1930 and he was jailed for 6 months, and in February he released. But in this period he had already started the RSS.
Yes.
So he did not want to be, he was the president of the RSS, Sarsanga Chalak of the RSS, and he quit as the Sarsanga Chalak and put one branch in charge till he came out. And he participated in the Satyagraha and got released and came back and then took over the leadership of the RSS. Because the RSS, in his view, was not to participate in agitations. It was to produce people who will participate in agitations. Actually, Hedgewar went with a set of RSS workers only to participate in the Satyagraha. He wanted to keep the Swayamsevak's participation in the freedom movement different from the participation of the RSS as an organization. So he had a very clear view, and his view was that if India got freedom, is it capable of sustaining that freedom? Because we lost our freedom because we were divided amongst ourselves. So Hedgewar started the RSS to ensure that if we got freedom, that was the purpose of RSS. So he fought for freedom. At the same time, he created an organization with the idea
that would
that
sustain
if India got freedom, it would not lose it, and there would be a sense of unity built among Indians, unlike in the past when because of our disunity we lost our freedom. This was Dr. Hedgewar.
No, interesting, Professor Gurumurthy, what you say, because a lot of what you're saying is antithesis to what is common parlance or the common narrative is that he dissuaded RSS cadre from engaging in the freedom movement that was led by Gandhiji. He disagreed with Mahatma Gandhi and totally disassociated himself since 1924 onwards from the Congress and Mahatma Gandhi.
Actually, 1930, he gave up the RSS leadership.
You mentioned
Went with a
just
set
now,
of
yeah.
people, boarded the train to go for salt satyagraha. He was asked, "You launch the satyagraha here." 1,000 people assembled in Yavatmal, where he entered along with a large number of Swayamsevaks. He entered the forest, broke the forest rules. This was called Jungle
Jungle
Satyagraha.
Satyagraha.
So the people of Maharashtra said, the Congress people in Maharashtra said,
okay.
let Mahatma Gandhi participate, lead the salt satyagraha. Let there be agitation here also. So he actually started to participate in the salt satyagraha, but he was told that the jungle satyagraha is also necessary. So that was also organized by the Congress party, and he went along with his Swayamsevaks and participated in satyagraha and got jailed. These are all part of. This was after he started the RSS in 1925. His idea of starting the RSS was to infuse a sense of unity, an emotional and sentimental unity among Indians, so that the mistakes of the past, where we fought amongst ourselves on different bases, language, caste, religion, region. So this does not revisit. This was the idea. When you fight for the freedom, you don't fight for what will happen after the freedom. Mahatma Gandhi said, "You leave first. Afterwards, we will manage ourselves."
Yeah.
When Churchill said that there will be chaos
and
anarchy if we leave you, he said, let you leave us to God and anarchy. We will manage. This was the spirit of freedom movement. But Dr. Hedgewar had another view, that you need a powerful organization with basic roots and foundation, so that the past disunity does not revisit and we lose freedom again. These are two independent courses of action each he pursued. One did not obstruct the other. That is most important. He founded the RSS in 1925 and he participated in the Satyagraha in 1930. And 26th January, which is now very important for us, the day on which the Congress declared that we will fight for full freedom, was the date on which the Constitution was founded. Otherwise, 26th January is an odd date. In our history, most people do not know what is the importance of. If you ask an average congressman, he will not tell you what is 26th January. But an RSS man will say, because that was the date on which the RSS Shakas hoisted the Congress flag, which was the national flag at the time. What do these people know? They suffer from such acute illiteracy. Of course, they can take any action. They can remove any person from the list of freedom fighters. But that doesn't mean the people whose names were removed were not freedom fighters.
Yes. So you are saying that he set out with RSS Swayamsevak to participate in the Salt Satyagraha, but he was convinced by the Maharashtra Congress leaders to participate or start the Jungle Satyagraha in Yavatmal. So that's the reality of. But why this obsession to erase the RSS by the Congress party, Professor Gurumurthy? Is this from Nehruvian times or is it a recent phenomenon?
No, there has been a distortion from Nehru's time, because setting the Hindus against the Muslims makes the Congress look secular, it assures the Muslim votes, and it cultivates a psychology among Muslims that only those who oppose the Hindus are friends of Muslims. This is a very dangerous idea which has been institutionalized in Indian politics. That a good Hindu, a person who claims to be a Hindu and is a proud Hindu, can never be a friend of Muslims, can never be empathetic to Muslims, is the kind of psychology that has been built into our secular polity, which is dangerous, which the RSS is fighting. That you can be a good Hindu, at the same time you can be a friend of Muslims. No, if you are a Hindu, you cannot be a friend of Muslims. This is what the secularism expounded by Pandit Nehru started with, and it has deepened and deepened. And today, unless you abuse the Hindus, you cannot be friends of Muslims. This is the politics today.
Professor Gurumurthy, thank you very much for joining us on very, very short notice. And I know you're deep somewhere in Arunachal and then you've done, but you've actually set or presented a very different perspective of what history is and what KB Hedgewar actually stood for and the idea behind the RSS itself. Perhaps that would settle a lot of naysayers and also counter a narrative that's being pushed by certain sections. Thank you very, very much for joining us this evening. Thank you. We're going to take a very short break, an early break this evening, ladies and gentlemen, because what follows is a long conversation across a range of issues over the decade, the last 9 years, with Rajiv Chandrasekharji and, of course, the challenges ahead, the road ahead.
The bed, her hair were cut and kept there. There were parts of her leg which were being found by the cops.
इन्वेस्टिगेशन में ऐसा रिवील हो चुका था कि एक कपल था, लिव इन रिलेशन में रह रहा था उधर. उनका आइडेंटिफिकेशन हो चुका है. अक्यूज्ड को भी अरेस्ट किया गया. जो डेड बॉडी के पीसेस मिले वो एनालिसिस के लिए हमने जेजे हॉस्पिटल में भेजे हैं.
The accused, identified as Manoj Sani, was staying with 32-year-old Saraswati Vaidya. Decomposing body parts were found in the home, and the police say the murder could have occurred 2 to 3 days back. Police have recovered 13 body parts and are trying to find where the rest were dumped. As per the FIR, the police have recovered a tree cutter that was smeared with blood and say that human flesh was kept in a bucket near the kitchen. Sources say the accused used to boil the body parts in a cooker in an attempt to hide the smell, but the neighbors raised the alarm.
मैंने फर्स्ट टाइम इंटीमेट किया था, मतलब मेरे को स्मेल आई थी तो मुझे ऐसा लगा था कि हाँ कुछ इश्यूज है इधर, लेकिन मुझे लगा नॉर्मली कोई माउस उस चूहा मर गया रहेगा तो उसकी स्मेल आ रही, स्टिंग आ रही है. लेकिन 2 दिन कंटिन्यू आ रही थी. वो कैसे आ रही थी? आफ्टरनून और नाइट में आती थी, मॉर्निंग और इवनिंग में नहीं आती थी.
Forensic teams are trying to unearth more evidence, but the accused has floated a theory that Saraswati committed suicide and he did not want to be blamed for her death. The police is not buying it.
एक बंदा है मनोज सानी करके और उसकी वाइफ थी वह सरस्वती वैद्य करके. सरस्वती वैद्य की उसने हत्या की है और उसने उसका डिस्पोज ऑफ करने के लिए उसका पीसेस करने का ट्राई किया है, ऐसा प्राइमरी इन्वेस्टिगेशन में निष्पन्न हुआ है.
From Shraddha Walker to Saraswati Vaidya, both women targeted by their partners, then murdered in the most barbaric fashion and butchered to hide the evidence. The big question remains, what explains this mindset? Bureau Report, CNN News 18.
Before we open this up to our guests who will be joining us in a moment, I want to first go across to the chairperson of the National Commission for Women, Rekha Sharma. Thank you very much, ma'am, for speaking with us here on CNN News 18. We are seeing this again and again, whether it was Aftab and Shraddha here in Delhi, whether it is this Manoj Sani and Saraswati Vaidya in Mumbai. We are seeing the kind of depravity in behavior, almost like these are not human beings. This is almost like animal-like behavior. Why are we seeing this extreme depravity in crimes against women of late?
I think somehow morally and socially we are going down day by day, especially the thinking of men that they can get away with these kinds of murders. And when the people who have committed these kinds of crimes don't get punished, then also I think they think that they can go scot-free after committing crimes. And somehow I think how we should raise our sons, that we need to think, the families need to think that morally how we should raise our sons and how society can change the way of thinking of our boys, men.
Now, in such kind of relationships where there is an abusive partner, a sociopath or a psychopath, and these women are living for 3, 5, sometimes even 10 years, how could they not know? How could they not figure out that their partner is a psychopath?
Jaka, yes, they do know, but there is a battered wife syndrome also. That women also get used to these kinds of behavior of their partner, and that is the syndrome. And they really need counseling from a psychologist if they are going through that, because they are used to. These men, what they do is when they misbehave with the woman, the second time they will, they will pardon themselves, they will say sorry, and they will again shower them with gifts and love them, and they take them back. Women take them. That is called battered wife syndrome. And many of our girls, even in Shraddha's case, we have seen that she was going through tough time with that boy, but still she was living with that person. It was because of that. They don't know that they have to go to a counselor, somebody and ask help. They don't know how to walk out of that relationship when they are beaten up or they are harassed mentally or physically.
One other thing that we've noticed, ma'am, is that oftentimes these kinds of victims of such harsh abuse, they are secluded away from their family, from their friends. They have no support system of any kind. What are the signs that one needs to pick up if somebody happens to be living in an abusive relationship, there is physical violence and so on? What should one look out for?
In every relationship, it is very, very important that a person has support system, whether from family or friends, and share their problems to the persons they are close to. But in Indian society, especially women don't, share their problems outside a relationship. They think that they have to protect that relationship from outside world. And even if that is abusive relationship, they don't share. So first thing is, if you are feeling that somebody is abusing you, even verbally, you should walk out of this and share it with your friends.
Namaste and Jai Hind. In conversation with perhaps the busiest minister, because he's got to transform the country from a physical platform to a digital platform. 9 years from blockade to decade, or from a lost decade to decade. That's the story of a tech-driven India or a tech-driven Bharat under Prime Minister Narendra Modi. Rajiv Chandrasekhar ji, namaste.
Namaste.
So let me first ask you, it says from lost decade to India decade. So the biggest story is the India stack.
Right.
So at a time when telecom and IT was seen as a base for scams, to a day when we are seeing about 14 trillion rupees worth of transactions per month. खुश तो बहुत होंगे आप.
हम खुश बहुत हैं. हम ही नहीं खुश हैं. I think the whole country is very happy. And I think certainly one of the things that the Prime Minister has done about, and my colleagues have been speaking for the last few days about other ministries as well, is that he has really brought a sense of purpose and urgency and excitement to the hundreds and thousands of young Indians who are now active participants in this whole tech economy. Like you correctly said, pre-2014, the narrative about tech was, which is the 2G scam or the Antrix Deva scam, or is it BSNL going bankrupt, or is it investors running away like Nokia, Telenor, Etisalat? That was really the narrative around the tech, unfortunately, because the same Indians, the same young Indians were Indians there then as well. But post 2014, the way the Honorable Prime Minister has harnessed technology to address some of the really deep-rooted problems of corruption, of money leakages from government subsidies, and at the same time creating this innovation ecosystem that the world is today looking at with awe and respect, with thousands and hundreds of thousands of young Indians is certainly a journey that is a long journey in the last 9 years, but a lot of deep thinking, visioning and hard work by our Prime Minister.
But is it celebrating too early, let me ask you, or is it just focusing on what's good and trying to hide out what's not being thought about?
No, I don't,
that's one of the criticisms.
No, look, I think criticism is always welcome, and I think good critique and criticism about what we have not done as opposed to what we could have done better is always welcome. But I think nobody today who looks at India dispassionately and with a sense of independent assessment will ever conclude anything but the fact that the last 9 years have been transformative for the country in general, but for the tech economy and the digital economy in particular. And the statistics, the numbers, the energy, the proof of the pudding, if you want to call it, is there for everybody to see. So there is no such thing as celebrating prematurely, because every big milestone, unlike Rahul Gandhi, who does not like to celebrate anything Indian, we are people who believe that every success we should celebrate. And that celebration of that success should in turn spark and catalyze more successes, more momentum and more growth and more opportunities for our young Indians.
But the government is already celebrating the successes. The job of the opposition is to also call out the funding winter. The fact that an open AI or an AI-based tech will also lead to loss of jobs. So there is unemployment.
No, I have, I don't think anybody, Anand, today worries about or is concerned about genuine criticism or even constructive criticism, or even saying, look, this government is not doing as much as it should do in this particular opportunity. But that is not what the opposition is doing. As you know, the opposition is doing something which is very, very strange, which is that as the world celebrates India, as President Biden embraces and treats our Prime Minister with respect, which is really a sign that he's treating India with respect, as people and economies all around the world, including tens of governments want to adopt the India stack. Every leader in the world, including multilateral agencies, recognize the power of UPI and the innovation behind it. That you still have the opposition saying, no, there is no democracy, there is no judiciary, there is no media, there is no good, there is no progress, there is no economic growth. You have to be spectacularly blind to the reality, or you just have to be a cussed politician to today deny what is happening in India. Today, the digital economy, which was 3.5% in 2014 of the total GDP, is close to 10%. And in 25-26, the digital economy will be almost 20% of the total GDP. And that will have manufacturing, it will have AI, it will have internet, it will have the tech, ITS services, and all of these things that now constitute the tech economy at large. So, like I said, we have no problem with criticism. We have no problem with even people that say that you could have done better. I think, frankly, you and I acknowledge that all of us can wake up and do better on any given day. But the fact that the Prime Minister has created an electronics manufacturing industry when it didn't exist in 2014, the fact that India under the Prime Minister is exporting Apple phones and Samsung phones made in India to the rest of the world when it did not happen in 2014. The fact that we are going to be at least 24 lakh crores in electronics manufacturing by the year 2026. These are all things that took a lot of effort. It took vision, it took PLI schemes for it to materialize. I think there are too many people in the opposition who are used to these big bang announcements that just go bang and like a hot balloon explodes into nothingness. And they don't understand this work ethic of our Prime Minister, where is multi-year, he has a multi-year strategy to really building and creating a momentum that then is in a sense self-fulfilling after a particular time of critical mass. So there is a very different approach towards India and India's success on our part and the opposition.
Why is that? You say tech has been used to empower. The opposition says tech has been used to snoop. You say tech has been used for social inclusion. The opposition's allegation is that you are using tech to misinform and to exclude.
Yeah, so look, just let's look at exactly what they're saying. For example, you know, and I know, and the whole country knows that for several decades, and proudly parroted by the then Prime Minister Rajiv Gandhi, there was this perception of India that out of every 100 rupees that left Delhi for the poor, for the benefit of the poor, 85 rupees vanished mysteriously. This I am not saying, Prime Minister Narendra Modi ji is not saying this, Rajiv Gandhi ji said in the late 80s. This has been captured by the Supreme Court in Justice Sikri decision. So this was a reality. This was what for 6.5 decades of India as an independent country, we had to deal with and live with as if this was the cost of being Indian and cost of living in India. It is Prime Minister Narendra Modi ji after 2014, one of his earliest decisions of using technology, creating DBT and JDY accounts to start directly transmitting money to people's accounts without leakage, without corruption. 29 lakh crores have been sent to individual people's accounts in India over the last 9 years. Anand.
29 lakhs.
Yes, and if Rajiv Gandhi's algebra or math still existed today, 85% of the 29 lakh crores would be in the pockets of middlemen and bicholia. Now this, when this was announced, don't forget, it is the same opposition big finance genius called Chidambaram who stood in Rajya Sabha, and I was in Parliament that day, mocking this and said it will never work in India because the poor will never have bank account, you think the poor will have phones, and he mocked and he laughed and he twisted and he turned. And now when the whole country is looking at that as a symbol, as a sign of how technology has empowered individual Indians far away from the state capital, they have nothing to say excepting to change the topic and move on to something else. So look, we are ready to handle any criticism, but they will never deal with the truth, and they will always move on from the truth to another lie. They mocked the DBT, they fell flat. They mocked electronics manufacturing. Raghuram Rajan has now recently made it his fashion to talk about manufacturing as if a man who's wrecked the Indian banking sector when he was the central bank governor has some great knowledge about electronics manufacturing. He's never done a day's work in electronics manufacturing. But where does he get off in commenting about the hard work that the PLI policies of the government of India has and created this industry from almost scratch? So why the opposition, in particular Congress, does what it does is a 100,000 million question. I think they would prefer saying something bizarre and changing the topic, distracting people from a conversation about celebrating the successes, celebrating these milestones about India. And they may think it's a very clever political tactic that instead of Anand and Rajiv Chandrasekhar speaking about electronics manufacturing, why not light something, put it there, say something bizarre, and have everybody's attention distracted about, let's say, textbooks being changed or somebody being written out of history. Because it seems for them that is much more clever politics than engaging in a debate about how well India is doing, how India is the fastest growing economy in the world, how we are attracting the most FDI in the world. That is certainly a conversation they don't want to have. They would rather have a conversation about fear-mongering the minorities and saying we've written out a leader from the Indian
Hedgewar. That's the latest in Karnataka.
We will turn back the cattle ban, cow slaughtering bill. That is their politics. Our politics, our Prime Minister's politics is about the future, really building an economy and opportunities for the future of our young Indians especially. And that is what we are doing. And the results are there for you to see, Anand. There's nothing today that I'm saying that is even...
But you would also admit that, yes, a lot has been achieved.
Yes.
But there is a lot of work to be done.
100%.
In terms of data vulnerability, it's a huge thing. That day, I remember when you joined us live on the show, there was a gentleman who was from Karnataka, old gentleman, who said government websites themselves are vulnerable.
Look,
the moment you get into DigiLocker systems, safety of the DigiLocker, data safety is questioned. People have doubts even about UPI, whether I can use UPI and how much of my data is safe.
Look, I want to say this very clearly, because in 2014 we were the largest unconnected country in the world. we had the largest number of people of any country in the world who did not have access to the internet. And today we are the largest connected country in the world with 85 crore Indians, 850 million Indians online. And by 25-26, it will be 120 crore or 1.2 billion Indians online. Now, the internet has always been seen as a place of good, force for good, but you know in the last decade, there have been user harm, criminalities, illegalities, and the bad guys are there as much as the good guys. And so that is certainly, as the internet connectivity goes up, more and more people come online, there are more and more cases of internet crime and user harm on the internet. But we are significantly building up capacity in that area of cybersecurity. However, we have to deal with one particular problem that is really that needs to be addressed, which is that law and order even today is a state subject.
Correct.
And cyber policing is still a state subject. And I will put to you, with great respect to all the states, that many states have yet to build the capacity and the capability in line with the numbers of their own citizens that are coming online. I know of states, for example, that still have, in a city of so many million, have 2 cyber police stations. Knowing fully well that 80 lakh people are connected on the internet in that city. So you understand
I get your point,
So I think there is a challenge that is being posed by the increased digitalization and the fact that law and order policing and investigation of cybercrime still vests with the state government, that many state governments don't put that as high a pedestal as, let us say, they do criminal, normal criminal cases or other aspects. So it is a challenge, but as Team India, we have to move forward. Even the laggard states we have to take forward, and it is something that we actively do. We have in this ministry twice a year we meet with IT ministers of the states, and cybersecurity is always on the agenda. We speak about.
No, but what is being done about it, Rajiv? That's the bigger question.
What we can do in this at the central level, we are doing. For example, CERTIN is today an organization that has tremendous capacity to investigate, to detect, to predict where threats are going to come from, cyber incidents are going to come from. But at a consumer level, let us say you are you're a person living in, let us say, Mumbai, Maharashtra, or in Chennai, Tamil Nadu. If you are faced with, let us say, a cyber security or a hack, the port of call for you is the local cyber police station. So when we get a lot of these complaints, we have to refer it, by the way our laws structured, to the local policing and the local.
But people don't know that, no?
No.
See, well, I'll tell you, as a common person, and please bear with me, that when I download an app on my phone, now if I'm not supposed to have that app, how is it being made available to me? So the first reaction is, Sarkar isko allow kyun kar rahi hai? Why is the government allowing it? Why is this app or this particular thing which is not supposed to be there?
No,
why is it there?
Anand, I'll explain to you. Look,
the government can ban apps when it wants to, so then why aren't they stopping the access to these apps?
This is in the tech space, especially the app ecosystem, is a very complex ecosystem where the government's visibility of what Apple does or what Google Play Store does is same as yours, which is, we see the app Play Store, what is coming out of the Play Store, they don't tell us, what is not on the Play Store, they don't tell us, and therefore we can only respond to, and this is, by the way, this is same for all governments all over the world. They can only respond to problems that a consumer faces as a consequence of something that he or she experiences online. There is very little that governments all around the world can do to say this app in the Apple Play Store is prohibited unless we specify certain guidelines for what is acceptable or not acceptable, which we are doing through the IT rules. So, for example, anything that does CSAM, anything that creates religious incitement, even online gaming that causes user harm, all of these under the law is now prohibited.
But they are accessible. You see the latest case in Ghaziabad.
So therefore,
where platforms like Fortnite, Valorant, Discord are being used
we
for
leave the
conversion.
online gaming bit of it to the side because online gaming in India is only now beginning to get regulated. It is a phenomenon that was banned completely. It was sitting in between state governments and central government in terms of who has the jurisdiction, and the courts were dealing with this for the last 2 years, 3 years. games of chance, games of skill. Some courts had pronounced something.
Yeah. Now you
It is
brought
only
back
recently,
PUBG for
yeah, it's only
90
recently
days.
that the government has decided that for online gaming, we would create a framework of rules, and where we have said now, the 3 attributes that a game must not have, if it has to be on the Indian internet, is that it must not cause harm, it must not be addictive, and it must not involve betting on the outcome. So if these 3 are there in any game, that app cannot be on any Play Store. And recently there was some, because we are waiting to create these self-regulatory organizations, which the government has to help notify. We have said in the interim, if the Play Store guys, the Googles and the Apples, want help, the government will be happy to certify what is permissible and what is not permissible. So we are making all the efforts that are required, and we are moving reasonably fast in terms of these challenges that emerge. See, Anna, in the technology space, there is no such thing as a normal.
Correct.
Today is not going to be the same as tomorrow. The challenges tomorrow we cannot anticipate today. We try and at best respond to the challenges the moment it comes up.
See, why I'm asking you, Rajiv ji, is because I educate me if it comes under your domain.
Sure.
The concern is, now in this case, as an online gaming app in Ghaziabad, there is a guy who's using a gaming platform to convert minors.
I heard about that.
So, but the game is not a bad one.
Yes.
But the platform is being misused. So whose domain does it come under? How do I catch these people? One. Secondly, people like Zakir Naik are now using online gaming platforms and video streams to try and push their vitriol because they are banned in India and they don't have access.
Correct.
Channels operating out of Pakistan, servers which are hosted in Dubai, they are active on Indian soil. Now, who will police who? How do we stop this?
Look, Anand, one of the realities about tech in general, and I think we can all very easily agree to this, is that the complexities of this are only exponentially increasing. It's not some linear graph that says that if today life is challenging, tomorrow will be 2x that. It will be actually some exponential equation, a quadratic equation that will... so we certainly know that the laws that we have today, especially the IT hack that we use to regulate the internet, are very old. It's 22 years old, and we need a much more contemporaneous framework. That is why we have started almost a year ago on the discussion of the Digital India Act.
Yeah.
And since the Digital Personal Data Protection Bill and the National Data Governance Policy was part of that, these two have been completed, and the Digital India Act is now underway. Once that act, this whole triumvirate is ready, that is the Digital Personal Data Protection Bill, the National Data Policy, and the Digital India Act, a framework that will cover all types of intermediaries. Because in the original construct in 2000, when the word intermediary was formulated, at that time people thought of the ISPs alone.
Yeah.
Nobody knew there would be an online gaming with video streaming and messaging on the side.
Right.
Nobody knew there would be other types of platforms that look like OTTs but are OTT++. So there are all of these kinds of complex, very different types of intermediaries that have now proliferated on the internet. The complexity of the internet is also increasing. With 5G and 6G and other autonomous types of presence on the internet, the internet today and tomorrow are going to be very different. So the legislative framework, the rules and laws, and the Prime Minister has been very clear from day one that as we increase the internet, as we allow the internet to be accessed by every Indian, we also should make the internet safe and trusted for every Indian. So that safety and trust does not come just by wishing it. So we need a new legislative framework, which is what we are working on. And like I have said, that we should hopefully start. We have done 2 pre-consultations of it. We should hopefully start the consultations in June.
But do you have the time to implement this 3-tiered structure? Because you're counting down to Lok Sabha 2024,
No, so
6-8 months, 2 sessions of Parliament maximum.
I know the answer for that you expect is that no, we don't have the time. But I certainly don't think when you're living in the tech space that you can have your clock speed or your speed counted, in terms of how many Parliament sessions you have. We have to do what is right for our people, what is right for our country, and that is how the Prime Minister has always worked. And we will do it. And when it is ready and it is ready to work, we will launch it. If God willing, we can do it in 4 months, we will do it in 4 months. If it takes a little longer, it takes a little longer. But do it we must. Because we like I said, it is our commitment that as we grow the internet, that the internet is also safe and trusted for all 1.2 billion Indians who use it.
So let me ask you, 9 years, do you think you need another 5 years to actually put in place what's been envisaged?
No, look, the Prime Minister has said very beautifully and very lucidly that we are sitting at a time and place in the history of India where for the first time in our modern history, we are looking forward and aspiring to be a developed nation. So certainly I am looking forward to the next 5 years and the next 10 years. And it is clear to me as somebody who spent over 3 decades plus in tech, I won't tell you exactly how much, but then you tell me I'm very old. That this is never been more exciting than today for anybody in the tech space. Whether you're a young engineer or a young student or a professor or a industry veteran, this is about the most exciting time in the history of modern India that we are living in. If you're the tech economy stakeholder, and so therefore looking forward. As you see, India and US working together for critical and emerging technologies, India and EU working together in none of all these areas, that I can only see growth and more opportunities in the coming years. And I really hope that we are all around to see the fact that this Vikasit Bharat dream of our Prime Minister becomes a reality in the short term.
So that's where my question to you is also that if, like in Australia, I was in Australia recently, the focus is bipartisan.
Yes.
So be it the Liberal or the Labour, they know that they want to push equations with India and they may approach it from perhaps little, but there is a commonality of thought. But here what we are seeing in India is what the government is proposing, the opposition is opposing or disposing. So if there is a change in government in 2024 or if you don't get an absolute mandate, you think you'll be able to push forward the story?
Look,
the Morgan Stanley report also brought this as the biggest risk factor, that there is no absolute mandate or a clear mandate.
Look, that you remember in 2018 also the same fears were said, in 2013 also. Of course, everybody today who's Indian understands that a strong, stable, decisive government has economic dividends. A strong, stable leadership has economic impact. So that is known to everybody, and I think we are only repeating what I think every Indian by now realizes. And I personally think 2024 will be even more of a decisive mandate than 2019. And I think there's nothing to prevent people from speculating about what happens, what if, and there are many people who have a full-time job in doing that. So that is fine. But I have absolutely no reason to believe that the people of India want to go back to the pre-2014 days. I mean, what type of a thinking person would ever want to do that? So I have absolutely no doubt that this country is on a path that has been launched in 2014 by our Prime Minister, and that path will end at a point in time when we become a developed nation. And along the way, yes, our opposition is an extremely unique opposition because they are more interested in tearing down the PM and with it this narrative about India that is being built. Because somebody recently told me this is astonishing that on one hand you have a Prime Minister of India being feted by the President of the US, and the Prime Minister of Australia calls him big boss, and people are big leaders are touching his feet in respect and hugging him, and all of that is a sign of respect for India and not just for the Prime Minister and for India and Indians. And then you have another person who spends 60 visits per year abroad, whose main single point agenda is to find out the next narrative of how to tear down India, the Indian media, the Indian people. I mean, assuming that you are the world's biggest cynic on the planet and you are in the Congress and you're a dynast, It can't be anybody's case that you don't find anything good about the country. That's the fastest growing economy in the world. You have so many youngsters doing so well in this country. None of that excites you.
But it's not about nothing good in the country. I think it all stems from the fact that they all unanimously have decided that the only person they want to target is Prime Minister Narendra Modi.
Yeah, but in the process...
And the opposition is also now ganging up. So 2014 to 2023, one recalibration one sees is that they're all in survivalist mode. So they all want to do a one-for-one scenario.
My point is different.
Have not just direct fight with Congress, but the entire opposition may say one candidate.
Let them all come together. All the zeros plus zeros should come together, including those who can't build a bridge after, despite 2 times trying to build a bridge, wants to be Prime Minister if he can't even build a bridge. All that is fine. There is no prohibition under our constitution to personal ambition, personal delusion. All that is free. So they are free to do all that. But what is inexplicable to me is that when the world and indeed most of India is celebrating this new India, this newfound confidence, this growth, the way we have dealt with the COVID pandemic, which is making every Indian proud, even then you will find, okay, yes, you have problems with our Prime Minister, you don't like him politically, you dislike the BJP, all that is fine. But where does the judiciary come into the picture? Where does the democracy come into the picture? Where does the media come into the picture? Where does the poor EVM come into the picture?
You're controlling everything. That's the allegation. When I say you, the BJP and the government of the PS.
So I think this is unfortunate that when it comes to celebrating the good moments in our country's history, the opposition wants to sit out of that celebration. I said this recently during the Sengol and the new parliament building celebration. And again, that is a classic case. For the first time in independent India.
Jairam Rameshji has again tweeted about it.
In the first time in India's independence, we build a parliament which is India built, not a colonial building. And instead of celebrating that moment, epic moment in our history, if you want to sit out there and whinge and whine and cry about something or the other, you are really disconnected from what the people of India want, which is celebrate our
But
growth,
isn't it also a statement, final 2 or 3 questions,
Yeah.
isn't it also a statement, Rajiv ji, that the government of the day was not able to bring the opposition for the inauguration of a parliament?
No, I don't think, look, that is the most bizarre accusation. You can't I don't think anybody can make Rahul Gandhi say anything positive about anybody, including his own party. Half of his party bails out on him. You see the youngsters of the Congress party bail out on the Congress because they can't figure him out. So I think to expect the government, despite the very patient Prime Minister, the very patient government and a party that gives everybody the respect that they deserve, to now coax them to come into parliament, which is their duty, which is their obligation as a public servant and a public representative, that is, I think, going way too far.
Okay. 9 years and also a few months left.
Yes.
So one thing you would like to, as in your ministry and as a minister, hope to achieve in the limited time that you have ahead of Lok Sabha 2024, and one thing which you feel is perhaps the biggest standout in Bharat's digital transformation over the last 9 years.
No, I can't do one. Honestly, I'm sorry, but I certainly can't pinpoint to one. We have a whole basket of tasks ahead of us. I certainly don't want to trivialize the others and say there's one more important. We consider all of them equally important, whether it's a semiconductor policy implementing, growing electronics, growing our innovation ecosystem. All of that is
DI, DPDP,
the AI, DPDP, all of that legislative. So there is a lot of work to be done. We are working or firing on all cylinders and hope to finish as much as possible before the election season sets in. And as far as where would we like India to be, I say again, I have been sort of I don't want to use the word child, but I have seen India from a time when we were consumers of technology. Everything we had to buy, everything we had to import, to now being a country where so many pieces of the technology ecosystem we are architecting, we are designing, we are building. And I want to see that continue, and I want to see this generation, which I consider this young generation of students, the luckiest generation in the history of independent India, take this effort forward in the coming years and really be successful globally. That is our dream as not just me, I think dream for all of us. So I hope that what we do is a small part of enabling that.
Now, Sam Altman was here. He's met the PM. I'm not sure if you've met him too and had conversations.
Sure.
So, but is he going to create more jobs? AI going to create more jobs, or is he going to take it away?
No. Look, Sam Altman is a passionate evangelist of AI, and he's, of course, he's OpenAI is certainly transformed and disrupted everybody's own narrative of AI. I was telling somebody, and I tweeted also, that about 35 years ago, I did a thesis in my master's thesis that was AI and robotics, and those days we came to the conclusion that this is never possible. So, he's making things possible with OpenAI and these large language models and large models, learning models. And we heard him out yesterday, and he has his views on how AI should be regulated, what the future of AI should be. And as I've said even before he came, I think we also have a point of view. We also think we understand this space. And we will certainly engage with him, and we will look for areas to partner with him. But the India AI program that the Prime Minister has envisaged and visualized and has given a lot of financial support to will continue down a road. And in that road, in that path, if there is some way we can cooperate with OpenAI, we will certainly explore that.
Final question is a little personal.
Yeah, sure.
I've always seen 2 pens and a pencil there. What's the story there?
No, pencil I keep because I have a habit of scribbling a lot of things, and for many years I used to keep pens, and I used to always forget the pen and lose pens. So I keep a pencil which is safe, because if I lose a pencil, it's not too expensive to replace it. So I keep a pencil, and I've learned not to lose the pencil.
For a tech printer and a millionaire himself to say that pencil is cheaper than the pen.
It's easier to lose a pencil.
Thank you, Rajiv.
Thank
Always
you,
a pleasure speaking with you. Thank you so much.
Thank you so
Namaste.
much. Thank you.
Good evening, this is Brass Tacks. I'm Zakir Jacob. There is a full-blown political war between the Congress and the BJP over history textbooks in Karnataka. The new education minister has said that any chapter with reference to RSS founder Dr. KB Hedgewar will be removed from history textbooks that are going to be taught in Karnataka schools. The BJP says this is unacceptable and that Hedgewar's contributions to the building of modern India cannot be overlooked. Between these two cross narratives, is history itself becoming a political football between our two leading political parties?
After the Congress party's stellar victory in Karnataka, the communal battle lines continue to deepen in the state, as the new government plans to undo what it calls the BJP saffron agenda. After the furor over anti-cow slaughter laws, the Congress turns its attention to school textbooks, namely lessons on RSS founder Keshav Baliram Hedgewar. The Congress has accused the BJP of ideological